talk about making some pizza toppings. We're going to start with some pepperoni. You can fit about 4 circles. If you can't freehand draw them, feel free to use a glue stick and trace around. Don't forget to add some little black dots for some seasonings. You can even double up the papers and cut out 2 papers at the same time. That way you end up with twice as many pepperoni. That way you have a good amount to fill in on your pizza. Next up, an anchovy, which is like a fish. You can follow along step by step with those simple lines, and then you can even try folding up the paper so that you can just make one cut and end up with multiple anchovies for your pizzas. Next are the olives. It's best if you fold that paper in half. Use a pencil to draw 2 letter U shapes, and then you're going to cut out that letter U shape, the smaller one. That's going to be that inner hole on the olive. Make sure you're cutting on the fold. That way when you open it up, it is one piece of paper and not 2. And then if you do 2 papers at the same time, you can have more than one olive made. And you can even trim around the edges to make it more of a thinner sized olive. Next up are onions, which are very similar to olives, except onions look just like this with multiple layers. So you can create many letter U's. Now I'm using 2 papers doubled up, white onions and red onions, which funnily enough are actually purple. You can see that how I'm cutting this apart, and you could continue to do that, making multiple sizes for your onions and spreading them out all over on your pizza. Next up are different peppers. There's bell peppers, which again, just like the olives and onions, you want to draw just kind of a funny blob shape, but with 2 layers where you cut out the inside. And then bell peppers, which come in all different colors. You're just going to make a stretched out letter M shape above and below and connect, and then cut those out. Again, you could double up your papers so that you can cut out 1 or more peppers at the same time. Next up are mushrooms. You can see how I'm folding this, making the top shape of the mushroom and then the bottom for the part of the mushroom that's like the stem. I've folded this up so that when I cut these out, I can make multiple mushrooms. Next up is sausage. Sausage is just a very simple cloud shape. So again, you could stack up another piece of brown paper below to cut out 2 pieces at the same time so you get more pieces of that crumbled sausage. Next up is the ham or the bacon. That's really easy. You can just cut it up into little squares. If you're making bacon, you might want to add little strips of like red and brown to make it look more realistic. Next up are the pineapples, which is a very simple shape. It almost looks like a little shell. It's just a little wedge, and then I add the little lines on top. Broccoli is very simple with the cloud shape on top, stem on the bottom. Chicken, doesn't really matter how you do that. I just put the little grill lines on mine. And then lastly are the steak pieces. So I just cut up little squares. So you can get creative with this. You decide how you should create your toppings. These are all just suggestions. So let me know if you need to see one of these again. The video I can play back so that you can rewatch any toppings that you might need to see how to create.